I'd been wrestling with the question of forgiveness, or and the insight that I had was really clear, and it was that forgiveness isn't mine. It's not something to do or not do. It's that it will flow through if I don't stand in its way.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Love, Loss, and Hallucinations. I'm really excited you could join me today for my discussion with Anna Symonds. And I just want to put a trigger warning out there. We do get into discussing some domestic violence as well as a murder in pretty graphic detail in this episode. So just be aware of that if it is something you do not want to listen to today. Anna is a plant medicine advocate and retired Women's Premier League rugby player whose 20 years of playing includes championships in the US and Australia. She's a busy person. In the separate sport of touch rugby, she won 4 national championships, 2 women and 2 co-ed with the Portland Hunters, and played for the USA in the 2015 Torch World Cup, which was the first ever US women's squad. Anna is currently the director of the Etheridge Foundation, which helps fund research in plant medicine and treatment for opioid use disorder. She's also active in nonprofits like Last Prisoner Project, Athletes for Care, and the Concussion Legacy Foundation. And last but not least, she has competed as an amateur MMA fighter. Just a couple things under her belt, no pun intended.
I never got one of those, but
Let's start with the Etheridge Foundation and just tell us a little bit about what that's all about and, what kind of work you're doing there.
yeah. Well, first, thank you so much for having me on, Scott. I was really excited when you extended the invitation. This is a cool topic, and I love this lens of delving into, exploration. So thanks. So the Etheridge Foundation was founded by legendary rock star and cultural icon Melissa Etheridge. And we are pretty new. Melissa lost her son Beckett 5 years ago. And, he died of a fentanyl overdose following struggles with opioid addiction that all started with a prescription from a snowboarding accident.
Wow.
And Melissa and her family tried everything they could to help him, accessing the best treatments, that are available, but nothing was effective for him. And as any family knows who's been through addiction of a family member, it is just a devastating, heartbreaking thing, not only for the person, but also their family. And then there's whole communities that are being, and have been devastated by opioids in particular. But so Melissa is a wise woman. She's had a lot of life experience. And among that life experience, she had found healing from plant medicines, and she understood their power. And she felt like if there were just some options for Beckett to access those types of therapies safely and legally and just, easily in the U.S., that things could have been different.
Yeah.
And so she created the Etheridge Foundation to advance plant medicine and psychedelic treatments for opioid use disorder.
And when did that officially get off the ground after this terrible loss?
Well, we started our work in early 2022.
Okay.
But it really started with the fans in the wake of Beckett's death. They donated all this money they wanted to buy Melissa a memorial bench where she could sit and think about Beckett. And instead, the donations just flooded in and created this seed for, she was like, what do I do with this gift, this legacy. And
Mm.
so she decided to start the foundation, and they did all that kind of legwork and everything for a while, and then brought me on as the first employee in early 2022. And then we got to work and gave our first grants and started connecting with the community.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what an incredible story, just and horrible and beautiful and heartbreaking. And just like, you can just feel so much love of the fans and Melissa and, around this horrible loss, and hopefully turning it into something good that will help others, ripple out and help others down the road. What do you mean by grants? Like, how does the foundation work in that way, especially around plant medicine? Because, it's still touch and go, where it's legal, where it's not, all that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So our big pillars of our work are research and advocacy, because for people to be able to access these treatments safely, they have to be able to access them legally. And the way to change the laws, I mean, there's a couple ways, but we feel that for the people with the greatest need to get access, there has to be at least some pathways through our medical system. And so the way to unlock those barriers and to get out of Schedule 1 for these medicines, where they shouldn't be anyway, is to be able to provide the data. So like you alluded to, some of the studies we've helped to fund are in other countries where work is being done. Like our first grant was for Ibogaine, and that study took place in Spain.
Now, for people not familiar with Ibogaine, can you just give a little background on that one?
Yes. Ibogaine is an extract from the root of the iboga plant, which is a shrub that grows in West Africa. And you can make Ibogaine also. There's another plant that you can use to make it as well. But it's been used, iboga has been used for many generations by people in that region for specific cultural purposes, coming of age, rituals, and other things. And so it was Ibogaine was like briefly legal in France, and I want to say the 70s for I want to say it was for weight loss or something. And
just a side note, like Ibogaine is like the big one. Like it's like you take Ibogaine, if you're like a big normal dose, that's like can be up to like a 36-hour journey. And so if you're doing that for weight gain, wow. Okay.
Well, and so for however they had, whatever tiny little dose they had or whatever, it was legal. And somehow there was an American guy, Howard Lotzoff, who tried Ibogaine, and he was a heroin user who wanted to stop. And he was astonished that the Ibogaine took away his cravings and withdrawals. Wow. So that physical part of, getting off of opioids, that is so difficult, like the physical piece and the dependence. And so word of mouth spread, and then France got around to being like, actually no, this is illegal. It spread.
And you got to fund this first study in Spain with that. And is that still ongoing, or is it results are pending?
Results are coming soon. They finished their data collection late in 2024. They've put out some initial results from their data analysis, and they're going to have more. They're hoping to have their first paper out in the next month in June.
And that was specific for opioid use, or?
Yeah. So it was for methadone, because in Spain, and this study was in Catalonia, which has really good laws around harm reduction. But Spain had their heroin epidemic in, I want to say, the 80s and maybe 90s. And so they had a lot of people who were on methadone where they had gotten stabilized, and, they just have to take this replacement pharmaceutical opioid. And so their lives were stable. They weren't in disarray. But for some people, the study was actually initiated by request of people on methadone who said, I don't feel like I'm living a full life, and I want to be free of methadone. And so tapering off of methadone or other opioids takes a really long time. It can take years, and it's this excruciatingly slow process. And so this study allowed people on methadone to taper completely off or to incredibly low doses from high ones within, I want to say it was 8 weeks or like a couple months.
Wow.
Yes. And so it's really interesting, and I can't wait to see the series of papers that are going to come out about it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, so most of the studies you guys have been funding are around opioids in different places. I know you've looked at ones in Canada and Australia. Are there any other ones that you're really excited about that people might want to hear?
I love all of our studies and all of our research teams, honestly. And part of our strategy is diversity in medicines, in research teams, geographies. For some organizations, they want to really focus all their resources in one area, like one basket. And that's legitimate strategy. But so is ours, which is to sort of water all the grass and nourish whatever's popping up, right?
Yeah.
So we've funded studies for psilocybin, for people who are tapering off of opioids, for people who are on buprenorphine already, and even cannabis for people who have chronic pain, like a novel cannabis formulation with high CBD but full spectrum. And so people who are using opioids and have chronic pain, looking at, if we give them access to this plant medicine formulation, will they take less opioids? That's with Dr. Stacy Gruber at the Mind program out of Harvard McLean. So we look at it like opioid use disorder. We have sort of like our dartboard, if you picture that bullseye, and plant medicine, opioid use disorder. This is the really like specific niche. But surrounding opioid use disorder, there are these other co-occurring factors that play a huge part in it. Things like chronic pain, but also things like trauma and other mental health issues.
Right.
And so we're looking for that bullseye a lot of the time, but we also kind of go out in those circles too. So if there's something PTSD or some of the other things.
Some of the underlying things that can lead to it or feed it, fuel it, as the case may be. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Because
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we touched on that powerful physical dependency piece, but part of addiction is also behavioral, emotional, mental, and even spiritual, where people are disconnected from themselves, from maybe family, community, their sense of purpose, their greater sense of themselves. And so those are all things that these medicines also address, right? It's not like the replacement pharmaceutical opioids where you just take it and you don't have a craving, and that, check.
Right.
And there's the whole other, the holistic person and all the needs that go into addiction. So yeah.
Well, I can just say, from having met you and talked with you in person, having that good fortune and honor, and just hearing you now, like, I can sense like the passion you have for this and the love you have for this work. And I'm just wondering, like, what is it like underlying it that you really love about what you're doing here with the Etheridge Foundation?
So my family's been touched by opioids, and I had a sibling who struggled with heroin use for over a decade. I say had, but I did not lose my sibling. They were able to go to Mexico and go to an Ibogaine clinic.
Oh, wow.
To get off of opioids. And that was more than 10 years ago. So that was pretty obscure at that time. I mean, it still is, but even more so. And so I knew about that. But also I've had my own healing experiences with these medicines. And I think it's a common theme among people who've experienced that, is to go, wow, everybody should have the chance to do this if they could benefit from it. And it's not for everybody, but it's for a lot of people, I would think,
It can help a
I think
lot.
there's really, yeah. And so ultimately our vision with the Etheridge Foundation is safe, legal, and equitable access for everyone who could benefit. So we have a whole, we have a whole vision of how that will get there from here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, that's
but
a
really
very broad statement, but
yes,
a great one,
yeah,
but a bit broad.
yeah, it is, and it does help that specifically we're looking at opioid use disorder, and so we have a lot of allies working throughout various areas that overlap with it, but it does keep our focus to like, how do we create new treatment pathways for this specific situation?
Yeah. Very cool. I'm wondering, would you be interested in sharing at all some of your own journey with plant medicine and healing you've experienced?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think because I felt like I was scared of psychedelics when I was younger, because especially because of my siblings' experiences with drugs. I was scared of anything stronger than pot. I had tried pot and I was like, well, that's fine. It's not a big deal. I don't know why they make it a big deal.
Right.
But it wasn't until like the end of college that I first tried mushrooms. And then I was like, oh, wow, this isn't scary. This is nice. And that was the, sort of opened the door to getting like
sometimes
a relationship
the plant
with
medicine
mushrooms.
tricks you that way. It's like, oh, I'm just going to be nice this first one.
Oh, it's just sparkly and beautiful.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
yeah. But then I found that, I don't know if you've ever found that, like sort of an intention to use, say, mushrooms recreationally. Like, this is just going to be fun. But then you found in the wake of it that there were therapeutic benefits. As I found that. And, man, I'm divorced, and going through that divorce was really painful. And that was over 10 years ago now. But there was a recreational, at the time, intention mushroom journey that gave me so much comfort and so much clarity. And so in later years, as I got more comfortable, as I was sort of going, oh, okay, well, that's actually always been a good thing. Even if I had emotional experiences, it was always something that made me healthier in the end. And so it opened the door for being, brave enough, I guess, to try other medicines.
Yeah.
So I, finally tried LSD in my 30s, and Toad, 5-MeO-DMT, and ayahuasca, and are there others? But I don't know. Nothing too, And also, when you list everything, I just want to clarify too that I'm not like out doing this stuff all the time.
Right.
It's been in safe containers. It's been relatively infrequent for me, and I guess with a serious intent.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
More of an intention.
Respectful.
Yeah. Well, and I love, like, 10 years ago, on that mushroom journey, when you're going through the divorce, and perhaps this could be completely wrong. You're just like, I just need a break. I'm just going to go on a fun mushroom journey. And, you fall into this like, oh, wow, like these realizations that comfort you, and you're like, start to realize on your own, before like setting intentions and setting and all that stuff was really in vogue and talked about in these circles. I'm just kind of observing how awesome it is that the kind of mushrooms gave you this insight as to go forward with, that then society has now begun to reinforce.
Yeah. it's been an interesting journey to see things getting scientific validation.
Uh-huh.
It's like, well, people have been having these experiences and talking about them for a very long time,
Like
whether that's
millennia.
in, yeah, yeah,
Just
right,
millennia.
Western society, also indigenous cultures
Yeah,
that have,
exactly.
yeah. And so uh, I think, I think one of the things that is most therapeutic, and especially around grief, is that it has, um, psychedelics tend to dissolve mental rigidity and
Uh-huh.
allow you to think in different ways. And that can be so therapeutic because when you're stuck in these grooves that maybe they're maladaptive, maybe they're not healthy ways of thinking and feeling, but you just feel, yeah, you just are stuck. And it sort of takes away the grooves, smooths it over,
Uh-huh.
and lets you carve new pathways that are more, maybe more fitting. But
And when you mention grief, were you talking about like the grief from the divorce and the loss of
mm,
that sort of uh, state of being that, or is there others as well?
yeah, no, that was part of it. But for me, a big grief and loss and pain and trauma in my life was the murder of my friend Lindsay Babb,
Mm.
15 years ago.
Um,
And um, this is about loss, so it's okay if I talk about
it
this,
is
right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
That's what we're here for.
yeah. So Lindsay was my rugby teammate,
Mm.
and was a good friend, just an amazing person, the kind of person that everyone loved.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone felt like she was their special friend, because she has had that kind of like, she's very like vibrant and just fun and cool and loving and talented and just like, just this radiant person.
Mm.
Um, she had this boyfriend who he was always at everything. He came to all of our rugby stuff. He came to like our officer meetings for rugby, which is like, we didn't even want to be there. We had to do so, it's like, oh, he's so supportive.
Yeah.
But as it turned out, he was incredibly insecure. And that's why he came to everything. And so this was somebody that I knew, somebody who had been at my wedding, who had been in my
Wow.
house, who I'd hugged many times. And she broke up with him eventually. And he started to act out like he
Mm.
came to one of our rugby things, and he shut a door on her, and she had just ended it. And then he sneaked into her house while she was showering and stabbed her to death
Mm.
many times. And she was 28. And so this just tore my world apart, and it changed my life into
Yeah.
before and after. Those
Absolutely.
times in your life where
Yeah.
nothing is ever the same again. And it tears apart your sense of meaning, and why am I here and she isn't? It is not fair. Why should she ever have had to suffer that way? It's horrific. And how could someone choose to rip the fabric of the universe in this way?
Yeah.
I mean, there is enough suffering in life that's outside of our control, natural disasters, things like
Wars.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
All
But
of
for
that.
someone to deliberately and specifically choose this. And so, and it has been almost, in a couple weeks, it'll be 15 years.
Mm.
And that sounds like a long time, but this past week I was driving my car, and the song one of her signature songs she used to sing in karaoke came on, and I
Mm.
just started sobbing, and I just thought, man, maybe I'll never get over this, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah, it is
Maybe
okay. And
it's,
yeah,
yeah,
grief has no timeline. And it's,
yeah.
for better or worse.
Yeah, but it did. I mean, this changed the course of my life, and it changed how I felt about the world
Mm-hmm.
and people and sense of trust
Mm.
and meaning and so So I think definitely the first year after that, I barely remember anything from it because I was in a fog.
Yeah.
And I was just putting one foot in front of the other as best I could. And I was doing a lot. I was working, I was in grad school, I was playing rugby, and just clinging on to whatever I could.
Yeah.
But
And in our world or culture, certainly Westerners don't do well with grief and loss, and especially tragic like this. There's not a lot of support. So if you're going through all that and
right.
trying to hold up all these different ropes at the same time of college and rugby, as you said, or school, I mean that's a lot.
It was, although it was probably fairly intentional because I tend to do best when I distract myself with
Yeah.
with a lot. If I'm at capacity, then I can't stop and breathe and look around
Right.
and think too much. but um but I do think that I got very stuck for a long time in I don't know, emotionally. And my divorce happened after that, right? And so it was like all of these, letting go of how you thought life was going to be or what you thought the rules for life were. Like this couldn't happen.
Yeah. Like nothing feels safe, right?
Yes, and nothing felt right. Like the universe is random and cruel and just I mean, and so and it was also like, I mean, he pled guilty, and so we didn't have to go through a trial, but all of us went there for the sentencing in the courtroom, and it was one of the worst. That room was so filled with like palpable, like just hatred, and it was just unbearable. And in the wake of all of it, two people were like, "Oh, don't you want to kill him?" And I just couldn't bear the thought of any more pain to anyone. I was just overloaded. Like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Even though I felt like if he would disappear off the face of the earth, that would be great because he shouldn't be here. That's wrong. You don't get to do that to someone and her whole family. And but it was that was horrible. And so that took some more time, another half a year till that happened. And and then we're continuing on. But I don't think that I think that then going further into psychedelic experiences, common themes people have, common experiences are that love is the fabric of the universe, and
Right.
that we're all connected, you know, eh, whether we like it or not. And so that gave me that sort of opened up this, things I'd shoved into a corner of my mind as much as I could and blocked off. And it was like, well, what does this mean then? I've had these experiences that feel very true. So, I mean, I had conceptualized this as like, okay, evil exists, evil walks the earth, and now I've come into intimate contact with it and I see it. I recognize it, it's here. And I started to see it more in people's malicious behaviors. And I don't just mean people being like petty humans. I mean like the truly
Yeah, and it was standing out
awful.
more because of this experience. Like
Right.
it's yeah, like you just
But
seeing it more, noticing it more.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then when you have those experiences, then you go, how do I integrate that under these two understandings that are very different? These,
Uh-huh.
right? That's something that I have felt and experienced along with that. So, you know, and 5-MeO-DMT that was intense for me. And it was something that really opened up a lot of new questions and,
In
and insights for me
in a good way or
in a good way.
yeah.
Because it was a lot of things that were like calcified, and it sort of really like reset. And one of those was this insight that I had, that I felt. It was like, because I had been wrestling with the question of forgiveness, or like, and the insight that I had was really clear, and it was that forgiveness isn't mine. It's not something to do or not do. It's that it will flow through if I don't stand in its way. And I
Mm,
realized I was standing in its way with, my ex-husband, and, feeling resentment around how he treated me, and different things. And that if I just, if I, it wasn't for me to, the forgiveness wasn't something I had to do. It was just something I had to not oppose, if that
yeah.
makes sense. Like, it was outside of me. And, and then it became, well, in that smaller scale situation, smaller stakes, so to speak, well, what does this mean about, Bab and the man who killed her? And does this mean I need to forgive him? Because the other thing that I felt was that like, okay, forgiveness, I just need to stand out of the way. But I also felt like I needed to do some kind of concrete action to
Mm.
like embody the forgiveness.
Do you have any
So,
idea what was standing in the way of you just letting it come through,
um,
or
I
what
would
you
just
need to
say,
let go?
yeah,
Yeah.
pain and trauma, and
Mm,
a sense of unfairness,
right.
like justice, a sense of justice, like when somebody has done something unjust, where's the, at least just the recognition from the rest of the world? Where's the
Mm,
recognition that you
yeah.
have been treated unfairly? And it seems like such a little kid thing, but it's that strong like sense of justice, like, and and so then it became, well, so like I sent a nice card to my ex-husband and his wife for they had had a baby, and I sent them a nice card saying, congrats. And which, by the way, I don't know if they wanted to receive it or not, but that was my forgiveness gesture of like,
Yeah.
look,
Yeah.
like this is really like, let go. This is really behind me.
And whether they receive it or not, that's
Yes, I
theirs
don't
to
know.
deal with. But
I hope it was only received in the way it was sent, but
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. But then when it came to this question of, this man, I have not progressed any further on that, because
That's a big,
the
big step.
yeah, the thought of forgiveness in that case is something that I'm very resistant to.
Mm,
And so I have a lot more philosophical thoughts now about what is the nature of the universe, and what is my role in it, and what ripples do my actions have, and what am I, what should I do? And so, I mean, for that,
and
I just,
where are you at that in these questions? Any?
yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm wrestling with that, because if I fully carried out that insight, it would have been like I would have to reach out to him in some way, or help
Mm,
him in some way, and I can't deal with that thought at this time. And that's, it's a far bridge, but I think that psychedelics, plant medicine psychedelics, do have the unique ability to dissolve some of those walls that we've built up, and to get us to actually be able to touch our pain a little bit more, and
yeah.
thus actually deal with it.
Yeah. And I would agree. Absolutely help deal with pain and healing, and get in touch with these sorts of losses. And I'm wondering, through this whole process, like, have there been any, like, how is your relationship to loss, whether it's divorce or a dear friend, like, how has that relationship to loss changed over the years?
Coming to terms with the nature of things here. Um, is impermanence.
Mm.
The Buddhists really put their finger on a lot of things, and, which is something I'm interested in, but I'm not, a Buddhist per se. I do like their philosophies. I'm interested in that. But the impermanence piece, and people will often say that psychedelics and the ego dissolution is practicing dying,
Mm.
because that was another thing that, you may have experienced this as well, when you have like a serious, like intense experience and you come back and you're like, oh, dying's not scary like I thought.
Yep.
If it's that, what I was just in, then it's nothing to be scared of. It's great. It's
Right.
just, it's going to be great. So that's, in some ways, that's pretty reassuring to have that experience. And research supports, there's a lot of end of life studies where people get a lot of comfort,
Yes.
from psilocybin journeys and such. But
Do you feel that helped comfort you as far as with Bab? And I mean, not how it happened, but perhaps after.
yeah, I mean, yes, that, but I think there's a big piece of me, and this is just part of my personality, that's very stuck on justice and injustice. And because of how it happened, I mean, he really made her suffer.
Oh,
He can I say? I mean,
whatever you feel.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
we're
mean,
open.
he stabbed her 37 times.
Wow.
And he slit her throat. And this was somebody who had said he loved her, who she trusted, who was intimate in her, in her life. And I'm sorry, but it hurts so much to know that she suffered and that her last moments here were in terror and extreme pain. And she didn't deserve any bit of that ever for any reason. And so that part, I still, there's one thing that people say too in the psychedelic community that you may have heard, is this theory. I'll call it a theory. Some people have a belief that that when we come, meaning like I guess our souls or whatnot, when we come to Earth, we're here to learn a lesson, and but we've chosen to play a particular role. We've chosen our life. And I feel that I'm agnostic. I don't have a particular religion. I'm interested in different theories of people's spirituality. I'm interested in them, but and so I look at that as another belief like that. And I think it's a nice one in that it gives a lot of agency to people who've gone through terrible suffering. It gives comfort, at least to their loved ones, who can, if they have that belief, then they can go, well, she chose that, or he chose that path to come and live and experience on this earth. I don't know if it's true or not, but yeah. So I don't think death itself, being dead, we understand that is a bad thing, because it is sort of just returning to the source of all life, is how it feels, and whatever your particular religion is or not.
In some way, it all speaks to that sort of reconciliation, so to speak, of going back to the greater is.
Yeah. And there is, people with these substances, whether you call them psychedelics or entheogens, people report some of these as being some of the most spiritual and meaningful experiences in their lives.
Yeah.
Even religious leaders, there's a study about that, a couple studies about that.
Yeah, Michael Pollan just wrote a piece for the New Yorker about that study. So very interesting read. We'll link to that.
Yeah.
Could I ask an edgy question? That
Sure.
might be an edgy question.
Okay.
If you could, maybe not personally, but see to it that the man who killed your friend was to get some sort of plant medicine experience, would you, and what medicine might you suggest?
I like this question, Scott. And it's the kind of thing we should be asking, because ultimately we want access for anyone who could benefit.
Mm.
And we know that trauma is a cycle that's intergenerational. This man was a refugee from Cuba, and he got to the U.S. on like a homemade raft over the
Wow.
ocean. And that's as much as what I know about what his life was like before that. But, and I don't know what his mental health, like clinically, what his diagnosis would be.
Yeah.
But if I were to offer him access, I think that ibogaine,
Mm.
honestly, would be. Ibogaine is categorized as, hopefully I'll say this word correctly, but onirogenic when you
Mm.
get really specific, which is like the state of a lucid dream or a waking dream. And it's, like you said, a very long experience. And what many people have described, at least in the Western context, is that it will take them on a tour of their life, and it will
Mm.
show them all their actions, and it will allow them to reflect on them, and in many cases it will allow for self-compassion. Although I know of a friend who came out of it feeling like he was a piece of shit, in
Mm.
his own words, like I did this, I did right. But it's a reckoning with your life, your actions. So in that sense, it's we both know that these medicines aren't like a pill, like a magic. Take this and you're fixed.
Right.
Take this
No.
and you'll have a good time. And ibogaine is not something people do
Yes,
recreationally
yes. Let's be very
because
clear about this. Like, Abigail, if
yeah,
you're using it, be very intentional. Have people, professionals guiding you and
professionals. Yeah.
using it with professionals, please.
Yeah, but I would be interested. I would not oppose in any way for him to have that experience and see what he sees.
Hmm.
Ultimately, I mean, some of it comes down to philosophical questions of, do we believe that people can change, that they can grow? You could use the technical, like, be rehabilitated.
Right.
And I do think that there are a lot of circumstances that can make people more likely to do terrible things. You know what I mean? Like, if you or I were in some dire circumstances, what would we do? And we don't know until we're there.
Right.
We can say I would never, I would never. Now this case, I'm not talking about this case.
Yeah.
This was not
This
like
was
that, but
very self-fueled, it sounds.
but I do wonder about mental health diagnoses, and to be honest, I for many years I felt like it doesn't matter. What he did is unacceptable. He's like a dog with rabies that's a danger, and he just needs to be put down. Even though it's sad, he should just be put down. And that's how I felt. You know, I felt
Uh-huh.
like I'm mostly against the death penalty, but not in this case, because I know he admitted he did it. We all know he did it. He was caught there in the house, and but and I've asked myself the question: if you had the opportunity to end his life, would you do it?
Mm.
Me, myself.
Yeah.
And that's like it's a disgusting question to think about,
Yeah.
right? It's something to face up to, because you do understand in the situation that taking another life will not do anything to restore the one that was lost. It
Right.
won't do anything, and it won't give justice. And her family might feel differently about that. And
Have,
I
have you ever asked yourself that question on a journey?
Oh God, I don't want to go that direction. Don't put that in my head, Scott. I'm not ready. I'm
Sorry.
not ready. Maybe in like 20 more
Okay.
years.
Okay. That's
But
fine.
no, it is like coping with but it comes down to the question of like evil. Is evil
Mm,
separate than me? Is it good and evil, this dualistic and the battle, and then there's a balance? Or are we all connected and we're all the same and it's the shadow side of the same thing?
right.
And
Right.
and you get very metaphysical, but with these like very real concrete things, in
These
your life. And so
concrete consequences that have just huge, terrible ripples that go out. Yeah.
yeah. And so, man, I don't know. I have not, I'm working on it, is
Mm,
about all I can say. But I do feel like, I feel like after journeys is when I've had insights.
yeah.
And thankfully I haven't like reflected upon that well. Or if I have thought of Bab, it's just of her and missing
Yeah.
her.
Mm. Well, I'm wondering, just thinking of Babs, if it feels okay and just to honor her. And I just want to recognize, how brave and wonderful and awesome it has been to honor her in this way, to share this story, which, isn't easy for you or her family, obviously. Is there like a memory you'd like to share of her that's, full of love and joy and, speaks to who she is?
Yep. Yep. Bab had an amazing singing voice and she loved to sing karaoke. She always wanted to get us to go. And when there were certain songs, she had her signature songs, but she just had this beautiful voice and such
Mm,
control of it. When people
yeah.
have that, it's like, huh. And I can still, like, I just can clearly, this like crystallized memory of just being in a bar. At that time, it was probably even still smoky, but maybe not. It may have been like a few years since but when, the music would start, and then when she would like hit her first notes, it'd be like all the chatter stopped and people were like, hmm?
Just quiet the
And
whole
people were like,
room.
oh, because they saw, and when she sang too, she wasn't like showing off. She just loved it. And
Mm,
she was just like expressing herself. And I can hear her singing in my head. I can hear her like, and I can see the look on her
uh,
face. And she just, man,
yeah. And for those of you who are just listening to this, like, Anna's just kind of glowing right now as she's remembering this memory, and it's quite beautiful, actually. And thank you for sharing that.
thanks for giving me the chance, Scott,
Yeah.
because this is like, she's been on my mind lately. And then I
Mm,
realized this anniversary was coming up 15 years. Somehow that went by. So much
yeah.
has happened, and
Wow.
yet it was quick.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you will, but I hope you're planning some sort of ritual or something on that anniversary for her. And
It's something that I think about is, of course, her death day comes up, and it's actually, my nephew had just been born,
mm,
and I had been with my family and we're celebrating this new life, and it was like the high of that. And then the
uh,
news came, a couple of days,
the
it was like
highest
the
high,
next
the
day. Yeah.
darkest of
And
dark.
yes. And so those, the dates are always, they're close. And when I do think to myself, I'm like, man, no, I'm going to celebrate her birthday. Like, fuck that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, so, but I'm less good about remembering her actual birth. Like, I know when it is, but on the day, so I feel like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if celebration is the right word, but for,
I know what you
but
mean, though.
and the honoring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, wow. Um, does anything else come up around any of this that feels like it needs to have a voice right now?
I will say, Bab's family and her parents, Mike and Val and her brothers, um, they they knew how much she loved her rugby team and us, and they stayed in touch for a long time. My team still has a memorial tournament
Mm.
named for Bab, but um, but seeing their devastation had a profound impact on me.
Mm.
And I don't have kids, and I think,
Can you speak more about that? Like what
well,
the impact was?
yeah, I mean, for me, I was like on the fence about whether I wanted to have kids or not, but after that I was like, I no, I don't, because
Mm.
I cannot bear the thought of ever facing this devastation.
Yeah, that
Um,
resonates.
and yeah, and so and I'm really, for many other reasons, I'm really pleased with my life and happy with, I've got nieces and nephews I love. I'm not missing out. Like, I don't regret. But that was, and so coming full circle with Melissa having lost her son,
Mm.
to work in service of a parent who lost their child is is an immense honor.
Mm.
It's something I don't take lightly. And so,
Mm.
yeah, and so the Etheridge Foundation is just like, it's my passion, and it's deep in my heart for many reasons.
Wow. Well, yeah, can hear that and see that, and it's I mean, this is what's going to help change the culture and the world. So you're doing like just such incredible important work, really.
Can I shout out that you are also doing really incredible and important work? For those who don't know, Scott
Oh.
is one of the founders of Shinemaker Foundation, who have been amazing supporters of the Etheridge Foundation. They have they've matched grants with us for the past couple of years, and again this year, and they do all kinds of other incredible work
Mm.
around the world in various like different areas that are, you should go check it out. It's amazing. It's really
Well,
beautiful. So
thank you for
we're
that
grateful.
shout out.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, we're so grateful. You guys are really powerful allies, and we're
Mm.
so grateful to have you in our corner.
Yeah, well, and also it's just one of those magical things that totally, when we started the foundation or started to support you guys, I had no intention of like doing a podcast. And yet here we are, like having this amazing, wonderful, beautiful conversation. And, I'm just so glad and honored to be able to help amplify your voice and the foundation's voice. And, hopefully you reach a larger audience for it. And I think in that respect, where can people find the Etheridge Foundation?
Yes. Oh, thank you for that. We're at on the internet at etheridgefoundation.org. Even though we say Etheridge, that it's Etherid. Geez, there's another E in there that sometimes gets skipped. That Etheridge. And we're on social media, so be our friend and follow what we're up to.
Yes. And you are on there separately if you also want to
Yeah.
share that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can find me on Instagram at Exit Drug is
Exit
my
drug.
name, and you can see what I'm up to. I've not been updating as much as I used to. Social media.
Yeah. You're
It's
busy. You got things going on.
well, I know, but also I'm a little bit like resistant
Yeah.
about the whole,
Yeah, I hear you.
getting sucked into social media
Yeah.
too deep. But I do, I guess I haven't posted a lot, but I like to keep up with other people on there. So hypocritical.
Well, and we didn't even I wanted to like discuss about exit drug and more about the cannabis side of things, and being an elite athlete and that whole transition to not being an elite athlete. So there's like still lots we can talk about, but
Yeah.
we'll have to save that, I think, for the next time we have a wonderful conversation. I just want to thank you again for this really deeply moving discussion we had today, and sharing everything you shared, and having the bravery and vulnerability to do that.
thank you for this chance to talk about it, think about it, share it,
Mm,
um, and be to be open.
yeah,
And sometimes, when you're carrying things around, it helps when you get to open up about it.
exactly. Exactly. Oh, well, thank you again. And again, etheridgefoundation.org, doing such important work. And till next time, Anna, thank you so much. And if any of this podcast resonated with you, be sure to do all those things, like it, share it, comment, all the good things. Really helps. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Anna.
Thanks, Scott.